well,
been in the
tend
past,
to
favor how it has been in the past.
For another loop. It might just be
and one of the teams that we didn't really get to talk about, but one of the teams that we didn't really get to talk about, but two has been doing quite decently. This Japanese Detonation Gaming, they're Japanese team. They're actually doing pretty decently. But they're sort of middling in terms of their performance. But they're sort of really at the top of the game, not really getting that many kills as well. But they're slow, not really getting that many kills as well. At the moment, and steady. You think that this is enough to maybe secure them? You think that this is enough to maybe secure them, or maybe on Miramar, which up until later, or maybe on Miramar, Poro, might be better at. Poro, they need to pick up the pace here, I think, because they need to pick up the pace here. They're doing quite all right. So far, they're doing quite all right. Take a little bit of a closer look. And if we take a little bit of a closer look, they can certainly do a lot better.
Yeah, for sure. I think what we've been seeing really is Detonation Gaming has found themselves kind of in the middle of the circles, which is great. Kind of in the middle of the placement position, which is great as far as getting placement position. Maybe not so good. I mean, we did see maybe not anything. I mean, positive that you can take for that. If there's anything is that they held that you can take for that Detonation Gaming is that they held a full 4-on-4 push against Afreeca, who was obviously just on fire in that lobby last game. But they held them off. They kept all four up, and they managed to make it to the late game once again. So I am interested to see if the circle moves away from that area, if Detonation Gaming has to play from outside of the circle, how they kind of adjust to that, and maybe see if they can maybe open up the floodgates and get a few more kills this time.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at the players who played the best currently. We're pulling up the top Predators already right
Predators
now. So yeah, I mean, you know what it is. I mean, I'm not surprised here. EJ yet again coming up, 2 players from Afreeca Freaks. You got EJ with 10 kills. Excuse me, 10 and 7 on Hikari. Simba picking up 8, and they got 7 on Renba. Upchen getting once again. Curson Upchen making another appearance here for his team, and Simba as well. So you got 2 players, excuse me, from Kerr play for the frags, not necessarily for the placements. And honestly, I love teams like this. Just so exciting to watch. What do you make of this black and blue? We got a lot of teams a lot of kills yet again for Curson, but the placements as well. Afreeca Freaks, they've got the placements and the kills.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they have moved up now here board, and when we do cut over on. I do like the initiative that we have been seeing from them teams. They bail on out in a position that they can actually play off. It was quite close to where Ghibli was, actually right underneath him. And so that initiative from them. So they're looking a lot more proactive than reactive. There are some teams that I kind of want to see more here, and namely, the other Japanese teams here in the tournament. For example, like Enter Force, E36 actually had kind of a good position to make a play a while ago. They had that entire northern part, circle control into zone number 6 and on, and they haven't been able to close out the games too much though. So especially from them, E36, that's kind of I'm hoping is going to shine up here. Of course, we do have the teams like Afreeca Freaks, who were obviously going to pop off every single time. And EJ, he just, I don't know, man. He'd make Rambo proud.
Yeah, and I think honestly the play here force on, just keep this up, aggression up. They have been doing well, and just by that they get 8, 9, 10, a lot of points. Okay, I can't do math. A lot of points off of kills on their own chat. Twitch, help me out here. Wherever you're watching, what's 8 plus 5? I'm just kidding, guys. They just keep this momentum up, keep those kills, and if they're able to do that, I'm sure the score will follow close behind. As you can see, it is working out for them. Look at this, Curson, 20 points on them, not even getting close to a chicken dinner for now, but it's Afreeca Freaks leading the charge away from the top placer earlier, who was MP5. 33 points on their squad. Danawa still not. Rascal Jester managing to come back though. What do you make of this, Poro?
I mean, look, 22 kills is just ridiculous for Afreeca Freaks right now. I mean, they're feeling real comfortable in this lobby. Of course, a lot of that has to do with the same 2 circles that we saw back to back, right? And we saw Afreeca have that kind of Eastern control for the whole time and the whole thing. So it just kind of played into their whole game style. So I'm assuming that we're not going to see see the same circle again. If we do, I mean, it could be just a dominant a freak a day where they just start running away with this thing early, even without having a chicken dinner in the pocket. But I'm expecting to see something go a little bit different this time around. All our Japanese teams, DGW, Rascal Jester, Sun Sister, Interforce, are all kind of hanging around the middle. I'm waiting to see where that next circle, where we get that Western circle, right, where things start kind of going more into the direction that they're used to dropping, if find some success in those games. But right now, I mean, we were expecting it to be a pretty Korea heavy top of the leaderboard. It's kind of how it's turning out, isn't it?
Not 100% though. It is Korea heavy, sure, but we got a team right up there, Ghibli from Japan, and we also do have MP5 up there after their win on that on the first map. So maybe it'll be the same thing on the third map, but they gotta find ways to shut down these Korean teams, man. They gotta lock them down, because right now the map control is just going all for the Korean teams. You see the way they spread out. We pointed this out earlier, that they like to, use sort of pivot off each other, spread out, and then sort of use those pivot points to either regroup or to relocate, just get massive amount of information. And thus far, no one's really been able to counteract this kind of play style, only when they get third-partied. And even then, the third parties usually lose heavy numbers. Black and Blue, what's the play here? What's the strat? How do you counteract plays that are just so intelligent from the Koreans?
I think the one thing that you have to take away from just the movement coming in from, you see, for example, Kia, they are so mobile. They know when to get going, they when to reposition, and they always have the proper vehicles to do that. So I think that's something that the other teams have to try and beat them out on. You cannot let the early bird get the worm. In this case, Kia, they're getting the hand of worms, because, as the rest of the Korean scene are doing right now, they're taking early map control, they're taking early control of, the zone as it comes closing in. Of course, you can't predict where it will close on afterwards, but you do have a general idea of like, okay, if it closes here, let's move here. If it closes here, we'll move towards the west. And in that case, I think the other teams have to take a play out of the book of teams, especially while Africa Freaks are on top right now. I think I do quite like how mobile Kia is, and I think that's something that will kind of play into the other team's strategies a bit more.
Yeah, but how do you feel about this though? We've seen 2 Erangel maps, okay? And we're kind of already noticing how these teams play. You think the underdogs will start to sniff them out and be like, okay, Kia likes to play here, they like to drop here. Do we snuff them out early? Do we go for these early kills? Because they're desperate at this point. What's the play right now for the people who are trying to catch up to Kia, trying to catch up to Africa Freaks? Poro, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, they should know where these guys drop. They should have an idea of where, given the circle, where their circles go, where they might be off of the rotation. Just avoid that. Don't go near that. Stay away. Try to keep your 4-man squad up as late as you possibly can. If you find somewhere think that a Korean team might not be, say the southeast, then go ahead and take whatever fights you can find. Try to farm up. I mean, let's be real, there's a lot of teams in this that are kind of on a lower tier where you shouldn't be necessary to take a 4v4 fight if you're a team like Kherson or MP5 or even some of these squads like Rascal Jester. Try to go out there and engage in fights, and once you figure out who you're fighting, if you're fighting a Korean team, disengage. If you're fighting anybody else, send it. Let's go get those points. You got to catch up somehow.
Points are important at the end of it, is the determiner of whether we win or not. And if you get those points, if you can get those kills at the very setting, that momentum, so important in actually any battle royale. One of the most important things you got to have is the wind in your sails, and just the momentum to be able to carry you forward here. We are going to be going into the game very, very shortly, but before we do that, Black and Blue, I just want to ask you real quick, momentum, how important is it in battle royales?
Man, I think it is one of the most important factors when speaking out the game. Of course, not metagame wise, there is no momentum economy that we're bringing on here. There is no momentum kind of utility that you have in game, but it is a very important factor when it comes to the mental aspect of things. Going down early in a really gonna kind of be demotivating for a team, especially ones who are not too experienced, like we do have some of the teams here in this tournament. of course, if you're down one, if you're at Freak of Freaks, you're going to be able to, okay, so it's one map, we're going to play the next, we're just going to reset things. Sometimes it happens. But for these other teams here who have not been getting good placements in these first, it's going to be so big. It's honestly going to be that negative momentum that actually decelerates you is going to be an even more important factor, I think, than the people who have been, the teams rather, who have been doing good to bring that forward momentum onwards. Because forward momentum, you can lose at any time. It can be cut off. A team might get lucky. They might have a better position than you. But having, that mental aspect of like, we haven't been doing too good and not being able to shake out of that as a team, that's going to be especially for the ones who aren't as experienced yet. And we do have quite a few of that here. And so I'm hoping for their sake, they're going to be able to shake off whatever, sand has gotten in their shoes, and hopefully they're able to make a comeback here as we're moving into the last Erangel map for the day. After this, we're going to Miramar. And that's going to be a totally different ballgame.
Yeah, I'm excited how Miramar changes things up right now. But before we talk about Miramar, before we talk about changing anything, I do want to talk about the MVPs. By the way, guys, we have something called the Intel MVP. And if you guys want to know what that is, we're giving away some very special prizes to the MVPs of this tournament, not just for PUBG, but also for Dota 2. And the prizes are one H35 laptop for each winner, and an Intel MVP trophy as well. So this goes to both of the MVPs. And if you want to know how we find out that MVP, well, it's pretty much simple. You vote. The fans are going to give 40%, so you guys got to get in there, vote for your favorite player, whether it's in PUBG, whether it's in Dota 2. Talents will also be able to chime in, and the players as well. It's like like kind of the Academy Awards here of PUBG and Dota 2 here at Predator. We will be picking out one winner for each, a Dota 2 and a PUBG MVP, and this is for the entirety of the tournament. And guys, just so you know, the entire voting process is done through the button messages on Twitter, and you can vote by messaging either the Twitter handle Predator Philippines, which is at Predator PH, or Predator Gaming. And I'm, of course, have to give a big thank you to Predator for making it all happen. We'd like to thank Predator because they have made such a tournament that we've all been waiting for so long. So summon your strength and and thank you again for helping making this tournament possible. So that's been it for the sponsors for now. Let's go back and talk about the upcoming game here. We got Miramar coming up very soon. So what are your thoughts on Miramar? What are the kind of adjustments these teams have to make? I'll start with you, Paro. It's a much different map, much different play styles. Break it down for me.
I mean, first of all, can we get a most valuable talent award so that we maybe we could? I want to get my hands on one of those laptops, man. Those things look nice. But hey, you know what? Hey, switching over to Miramar is going to be a huge deal for a lot of these squads. And given that there's only one game, right? If you're a team that's on the right hand of the leaderboard right now, if you've only gotten a couple of points here and there, this is your opportunity to really kind of turn your day around. Try to find some footing on Miramar at the end of day one. So even if you've had a terrible first 3 games, you can at least find something and say, okay, now we've got something going our way. Now we've found our footing on Miramar. We know that we have 2 more Miramar games to start off with tomorrow, and we can feel confident going into tomorrow because, I mean, like Black and Blue was talking about, I mean, there's such a big psychological part of this game. And if you find yourself in a position where you're starting to get tilted or say like blaming the circles or blaming stuff that's out of your control, it's almost like it's already lost at that point, right? As soon as you start putting blame on things that you can't personally fix yourself, it's over. You're done. So as long as these guys can say, okay, we can kind of fix our performance in this way, we can fix in this way, maybe fix our shot calling in these particular type of situations, that's always something to progress upon and start to build off of, and just kind of do better as you start going through the tournament. So as long as these guys are in that frame of mind still where things can be fixed as far as is concerned, I think that they'll be able to rally.
Yeah, I agree, and this applies especially to teams that have been sort of underperforming. We talk about really good teams. Let's say Detonation Gaming White. They underperformed really quite recently in the PUBG Global Invitational, and for a fact that they were there, as well as Kia, who, if we put it lightly, just didn't show up. That's just all we have to do. Talk about.
Putting it kindly.
How important is it to get back into that mental state? How important is it to be able to show up on the map after crushing defeats and not very good performances at the back of it?
Oh, is that going to be?
Was that me?
I'll touch on this, and then we'll throw it over to Blackie because I know he's got a lot to say on this as well. Yeah, I mean, you got to be able to brush it off, right? If you have one bad game, shake it off. Do your little Taylor Swift dance. Do whatever you got to do. I don't even care. Hopefully, it's a Taylor Swift dance because that'd be hilarious and that makes me happy. But yeah, just shake that off, move forward. Every single game is a new experience, and don't try to take anything negative from that previous game into this one. Start with that clean slate.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, while previous tournament experiences might be something that will kind of influence how the decision making might move on forward. That almost like a PTSD of, we lost that one game because rotated here too early. That's something that they have to try and forget and leave behind. Bygones be bygones. Now we're moving into a new tournament here at the Acer Predator League. It is, of course, our third map of the day, but we're still going to be in Erangel. And so if anything, the only lessons you should be learning right now and should be taking into consideration are the two maps you just played right now. That's going to be something that it will matter more importantly, because these are totally new teams, totally new brackets, totally new lobby, and every single lobby is different. So now as they're playing here against these teams for the Asian region in the APL, it's going to matter a lot to be able to get that mental reset and really be like, okay, what are we? This is our team. We're Damwon. We're Afrika Freaks, or whoever we are. We know our style. We know what we can bring to the table. Let's do it, guys. And well, that's really, as we were saying, and as Porter was saying, the mental aspect, mental warfare, psychological warfare is a big piece of this whole bubble.
What really surprised me, and this is something I'm very pleasantly surprised about, Team Curson. Looking a little bit closer at them, they're a team that's come from Taiwan. This is a region that we don't really have a lot of info on, by a region that definitely loves its PUBG. And it just goes to show for a fact that, a lot of the times we can be surprised about teams that come from nowhere and just start wreaking havoc on the server. We've seen Simba, we've seen UpChen come out here, getting multiple frags. Do you feel like part of this is because no one really knows how they play, or are they just that good that they just show up and absolutely wreak havoc on the server? This time I'll start with you again, Black and Blue, since I did go to Poro last time. Curson, where did these guys come from?
I mean, they are a team from Macau, and as I would like to quote the very, very famous Mr. Streamerman Shroud, as he put it, the correctest player out there is probably not somebody on a professional team or somebody, in a local tournament, but probably some dude who just plays ranked all day and lands just nutty shots nonstop. That's probably the correctest player you're ever going to find, right? And it kind of tells me that, while, of course, players like 911 and players like Something from the side there from representing Macau here for MP5 and all, they are obviously players that have been in the scene for a while. The rest of the team around them kind of seem like more fresh faces, because I'm not too familiar with the other rest of them, so it kind of tells me that, okay, maybe they're fresh faces to this whole thing. And the fact that they're as Pora put it, cracked as they are already, is showing me that these guys are definitely those solo queue gods, especially EJ. Just him be able to do that all alone, he literally got half of the frags for his entire team, right? They ended up with 16 on his team, and he got, what was it, 10? He got 10 frags,
yeah,
right?
10.
And I think they ended that match with either 16 or 18 frags for that whole squad of theirs. And for him to get that much, he's a pug star, if there ever is one.
I think it was about 17 just between him, just between the two players right there. I forgot who the other one was, but yeah, at least 17 between two of them, definitely more. And when it goes to having star performances like that, when your team's able to hit their shots and do shot calls like EJ is, and maybe get those kills, that's just a sight to behold. It's a I think a moving thing. It's a very inspiring thing to be able to play that well. Now here's the question for you, Poro. Going into the more international stage, since we are at kind of an international stage as well, but more of a regional stage, do you think that these guys might have a better chance here? I mean, they're starting to look a little bit better, but if we go up against teams from NA or EU, is it still a long shot?
Absolutely not. And you know, my biggest take on this is that you get some teams, right, that are coming from these regions like Vietnam, Thailand, you know, a lot of these regions that you don't really see a whole lot of. The thing about them is that they don't have a lot of experience on the international stage, sure, but that means that they don't know what to be scared of. They don't know what to look out for. They don't know that they should be intimidated by Damwon Kia. They don't know that they should be worried about Ian Afrika, you know, coming in and dominating from every angle. So all they know is we're going to push in this. We know we've got mechanical skill because we've, you know, obviously built the team based off of it. So they're going to push into everything, and they're not going to know the unwritten rules of international competitive PUBG. So they are absolute wild cards. And that to me is the scariest thing in the lobby. I mean, you could put the world champion in this lobby. I'm still more scared of the wild card team that has confidence and has great communication as a team and has been playing together for a while. That's the team I'm scared of.
Just like Curzon, I think that's what we're starting to see here, that magic manifesting itself here today. We're just about ready to get started with the game. Before I do that, though, I'm going to ask you guys real quick, of all the teams that we've seen here today, map number 3, who's going to take it? I'll start with you, Black and Blue. I keep forgetting. We're online. I can't look at you right in the eye. Like, yeah, it's your turn.
It's true. It's fine.
Man, well, first of all, I miss having events and LANs, but to think of things here, I mean, we have to go with a team that has been doing quite well. I don't think Afrika Freaks are going to get chicken dinner. I don't believe so, because they just haven't been able to, you know, sustain themselves in that way to be able to enable themselves to get that chicken dinner at the end of things. But I think in terms of points, after map 3, they're still going to remain on top right now. They are 10 points ahead of the next team, which is Karsan. The rest of them, though, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, they're neck and neck at each other, honestly, a few points in between. And so that is really where we're going to have, I think, the biggest fight for, you know, their placements moving into map number 4. But at the end of it, I think Afrika are still going to be on the top. Will they get chicken dinner map 3? I don't think so, but they should still be able to sustain themselves, get that points, get those placements, and the frags to boot, and get them, well, rather keep them at the top of the leaderboard.
Go ahead.
Is my turn? I'll take it. Game 3, I'm going to go with the team that I think is going to be the best suited to get a chicken dinner. They are going to crash the center of the circle on circle 1. Every circle is going to fall on them, and they are going to defend the absolute hell out of a bathroom. Venus Gaming is going to take game number 3. You heard it here first.
I love you, man. I just want to say I appreciate you so much, Poro. Just great, the best prediction. You know what? I'm gonna double down on that. I'm just gonna be like Venus Gaming. They're gonna find the number 1 perfect bathroom and just bring us into that chicken dinner. It's gonna focus all around them. That's how they're gonna win it this time around. But let's see if our casters will they believe us or not. I don't know. Maybe, sure, but casters, what's going on?
I'm going to say absolutely not, but we will find out. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. My name's Kyle Laris alongside The Sims, and we are here to bring you the next couple of games that are going to be going down. Rich, it's good to be here. Already, we've seen some exciting games.
We have so far. It's always interesting when we were casting and watching over different regions. We kind of always talk in the back of the differences and the nuances between how different play styles have gone down and how different people match up against one another. I think coming off the back of certainly PGIS, we have seen a big mix-up, and not only because of the format itself, but because of how many regions were in play. It does kind of feel nice, even though this is the start of the season, quote-unquote, James. We're getting to our first real events of the year, aside from a World Championship. Yeah, coming off the back of, 6 weeks now of gameplay. And it's just PUBG all the time, and honestly, I'm not complaining. Long may it continue.
Yes, absolutely. We're in here for game number 3 then, and already a very southern plane. So my eyes, Rich, already turned to MP5, who have already won 1 game. They've been dropping over on Millie to win that game that they did on Millie and go all the way up to Stalba. So, but maybe they'll be contested down here on Sosnovka Island.
I suppose that's the biggest question, right? Was game 1 in the pan? It was a win. There was 8 kills to boot, but after that, a 9th position and only 1 kill in the bag also. Granted, there are a lot of things that you can kind of correlate to that circumstances of why that happened, but certainly, you know, look, we're only 2 games in. Players are going to be still looking the kinks out, looking at we've had so many change-ups, right, since we've last cast PUBG, and it's only been a very short period of time, so to speak, a very few weeks. There's a lot more teams that have on the come up. There's a lot more teams that are going to be thrown into this one. This is a continuation from an event that was played out a hell of a long time ago, and now we come full circle again, finally, to be able to basically just revert round and seal this off. Look, anything can still happen. That was the whole telling story of PGIS, and really, I'm all for it. Just, you know, the whole Smash Bang event, if we're down for this one, totally fine. Let's just have the winner on the day.
No, absolutely. And I think that for this tournament specifically, there will be a lot of... I mean, it's already been mentioned on the desk. It was mentioned by Clinton as well as Steve in the previous casts. I think the Korean teams are going to have a great time. I think they're going to have a very strong comfort zone. This circle to start things off makes things spicy. And interestingly, MP5 not rivaled at all on Sosnovka Island, given the fact that when we see these playing tendencies, Rich, we usually see a circle move down here. So MP5 can work with a lot of room to start things off.
Yeah, when we see this more southerly circle, a lot of us, southerly flight path, a lot of us say, okay, you know, Sosnovka's definitely within reaching distance. We need to be aware of that and keep that in the back of our minds. A few teams don't necessarily, we can't blanket state that they change their drop and they adapt based simply upon that. We're already hearing grenades go off in the background. That's because a Freak of Freaks are going for the quick rotate from the main area of Erangel to Sosnovka itself, and it's not a bad time to do it. Yes, granted, you're going to know someone's going to be in the vicinity. MP5 are thankfully spread out. You can see from the map, it's actually, saying that the backing vehicles again, I was wondering if a few of them would kind of hover around Billy Base itself and be able to set up shop, but no, it looks like they're actually magnetizing towards a Freak of Freaks position. So even though there is only 2 teams down there, there is possibility for an early scuffle, and no team really wants to do it because losing players early game doesn't really help anybody out.
No, indeed. And I think MP5 here knows that some of this land is very valuable territory, right? Like, they don't really want Africa Freaks to take residency up in the radar, on the radar hill. So maybe they go up there on the radio tower, maybe kind of claim that and work from there. As you can see them all migrating from the west side of that circle and looking to find a position there, whilst Africa Freaks' drop over by Milta has afforded them this quick rotation to be able to secure themselves some prime cut of the beef as well, I suppose.
Yeah, and that's going to be, it's like more so, hold on. We'll just kind of pause for a second because I believe PSTR knows the position of M8T8. As soon as they get in the vehicles, if they're actually waiting for this purposely, they put someone down the edge of the defilade on the left-hand side, but position's definitely been noted with the shots that will be suppressive fire, keep them at bay. Are they actually wanting these frags? Are they driving towards them purposely? I mean, out of the back, they've been punished for it, and the final player, well, he's half HP, and for some reason, he's not continued the drive. He's wanting to take this fight, but there's so many players here, you can't just get out of the car and hope for the best at this point, unless you're trying to bait for the sniper.
Harry finding fast work, getting him very nicely. Edwin goes down as well to Zanyu, and that will be a little bit of a look from this Kar 98. Will he connect with these shots? They had to have known that there may have been more threats than usual coming from this drop. PSTR... Oh, another good shot actually coming in from Jason. PSTR are normally a team that goes towards North George, but this plane really did not afford that. They went for scrap loot, and taking these fights now, it's prime pickings.
If you're going to try and bait for the sniper, fair play, but I mean, at what cost? Where does the call come in of what's this worth? Is it worth losing a player early on? I mean, the smokes will go down. Yes, you may have removed a helmet. Yes, you may have slowed them down, but you've lost 2 players while doing so. They clearly knew the position of the team on the opposing side, and that's why they were already pre-hanging out the side of the car when they set off. Really, it's a bit of a sketchy push, especially on that hill when you've got 4 players who can just creep. They clearly didn't know that there was also somebody still left back at the actual main head of the compound, and I think he may have just struck. I believe Jason was taken down by that player specifically that I was speaking about. We'll hop on board across the pond, because at the moment, teams are just basically trying to make landfall here, James. It's going to be a smash and grab.
Yeah, Rascal Jester using that kind of South Road drop, just finding themselves a boat and trying to find themselves a bit of safety against Damwon Kia, who can hit from across the kind of the waterbed that we see here. So you got to be very careful as Rascal Jester in the smokes. Kia's going to be moving on now from all of this, realizing that maybe they should try and make landfall here on the island soon, but you never know.
And just checking that this area is not contested in any way, shape, or form. Depending on what Kia wants to do with this one, they can even bolt it to the bridge or maybe even just ram it into the water, go for the swim. At that kind of position where they are, it is the closest to the opposing side, how it struts out. The Groza's there, we can see it through. We'll be quickly picked up in the vehicle, and away we go. Very much bye-bye. That car is not looking happy. That has two wheels, unfortunately.
I'm hoping to see, as we see this fight continue to go on, from Just Do It, and I don't think they'll get much more from this. Team Curson has rotated nicely down from their kind of Fairy Pier split and could potentially run into 2 drops, never mind 1. They have looked good in the first 2 games, playing from edge, sweeping. I wasn't a big fan of them sending center in the second game, despite getting them a 4th place. I think they've looked good in the fight so far of Team Curson, and it's a... They had success in the preseason, like about a year ago, and then they really fell off. But now this Team Curson, this iteration, with Simba, I would say, at the helm, I think they're looking good.
Well, we'll see with this circle. It's going to force a lot of them into a very, very small area, very small pack on the down near a Freak of Freaks. With something like this, I suppose you still have to remember, A, how many people are on Erangel and have to still transition across, and B, the fact that the Western Bridge really isn't gonna, you're not gonna be able to stop. You know, you're gonna have the blow on your back. Yes, it won't do tons of damage while you're over there, but there's no real chance to pause, gather your thoughts, kind of break it down. You're just gonna have to full send this one and hope for the best. Thankfully, on the opposing side, no one's there really to capitalize on that. And it is, of the 2 bridges, it is one that's more harder to camp. Real hard cover. You are playing on the extremities of the middle of the bridge, a couple of rocks, a couple of trees, but it's so easy just to be able to hit the hard right angle, whether you're looking towards the left or the right, and just full send it upside of the hill or down past the yellows. You can camp the yellows, but again, you're still going to be playing up against the blue and the extremities of the circle. Is it somewhere you really want to be at this point? Probably not. This right now, this fight in particular, is one of many that is we do have to keep our eye on, just because it's basically revolving around the radio tower, right? We've got, what, 4 or 5 teams that are already in residency here, all fighting for this very strong position.
Yeah, definitely so. A radio tower, for me, in competitive PUBG is sometimes a blessing, sometimes a curse. You see a lot of teams take up residency there early and then not really capitalize on it too much. MP5 are losing 911 there. He's going to need some supporting fire from angles, which MP5 really needs to make sure they capitalize on collapsing on a position that Feishan is currently looking for. But you can see already Rascal Jester is reinforcing quite quickly to make sure that that doesn't occur.
Yeah, they're taking ground, which is exactly what they kind of needed to do for the position that they were in. And the player up on the radio tower, unfortunately, hasn't really done much. You know, he could have given some level of support. He may have been able to do something, even if it was suppressive fire. For MP5, they'll disconnect from this one. I'm totally fine with it. You know, just consolidate yourself. Look, you've lost a player rather than just fully commit to it and lose more. Take it as it is. Player down. Position's gone. I mean, looking at this on the bike now, is he going to try and scout for more land? I don't really think there's any necessarily a need to at this moment. It's a nice little prime position that you can kind of keep control of. We'll hop on board with JDI and Onyx, clearly making note of the vehicles that are in front of him. And as I've said before, the blue now starts to become a bit of a game and a bit of a problem, because if either E36, Ghibli, any of these teams set up shop in and amongst that bridge, a lot of these teams are in trouble that have to transition across.
I feel like if you're going to take radio tower, you can't spread as thinly as MP5 did. There's like, especially if you're in buildings and you just do not have line of sight on kind of reinforcing some members, then I think it is treacherous. But Rich, look, people are going to be able to try and cross in. I think JDI and E36, of course, E36 now moving across the bridge is going to be okay. JDI will follow them in, but there's still Ghibli, Danawa, Venus, Sun Sister. All of these teams still have to get across, and it's getting late here. What
would be kind of wild is if it hard shifted back towards the north. If it went back towards the main head of Erangel, then we're really in for a fun game. If not, it should just be steady away, which I don't think, with your little denied noise, that it has actually come full circle all the way back to the radio tower, which is kind of what we anticipated. And to expand on what you were talking about, radio tower, it is a blessing and it is a curse at times. it's more of a blessing with this kind of circle if it starts to roll down towards the south. When you have those dips, those bevels that you can drive into or even just walk into, you've got hard cover. If you're going off the front of it, I hate the road down towards the main houses because all the houses have got teams in them. It's a full send down, and ultimately it's just you walking towards the grave.
Yeah, looking at where Kirsten is moving, there is area below that radio tower location, which is really good, kind of small little hills here and there to be able to work with. But anyway, this fight continues on in the blue right now, and this is a symptom of late rotations trying to come onto the island. Not the easiest thing to deal with, and then you run into teams like Ghibli, for example, is going to run into PSTR on this bridge and try and take them out along the way. Not doing too bad. Zhan Yu does go down.
Kill feed's beginning to light up, and this is just mutual self-destruction. It's a bit of a mess over by the bridge, even out towards the blue. This is still beyond the bridge. We have to get to the kills that you're seeing currently on the kill feed between Ghibli and STR, who are just slowly but surely working their way into one another. Harriet, Bulang, both of them fall simultaneously. Comes down to one final player to try and hold the mantle here in a 1 versus 4. Difficult. I would say completely out the realms of possibility, but hey, this is PUBG. Anything is possible any given day. At least has the meds to be able to get himself ready to rock and roll, even if he can just at least be a nuisance and get a few knocks, James. It's, you know, it points here and there.
But anything you can get, I think, is good at this point because PSTR has been so split across these 2 fights, across the entirety distance of Ferry Pier, that anything you can get, as you say, is good because they are dead. They are done in this game unless some miracle kind of happens here. Ghibli's disengaging on the bridge. They know that they've got the knocks. They can just walk away from this, get themselves prime position in the circle a little bit further in, and JDI should, in theory, win this, but they're looking low on meds right now here, Rich.
That's the thing. Everyone's low on it. So this becomes now a huge fit in his hand, especially that he's rocking the AKM. When we think about it, pound for pound, 7.62 hits harder. If all these guys just run at him single-handedly, especially with low health, this could be exceptionally dangerous. Finally, he does go down. He does go out. We hop on board with down 1 Kia, still trying to hold the opposing bridge. There's a lot of players, and there's still yet another team to try and commit it towards the cause.
I mean, if your objective was to cripple JDI, you've kind of done it. There was 2 players knocked to the blue because they had meds, and eventually, yes, they clean it up, but JDI is, as you can see in the kill feed, just getting plastered by this situation. Well, unfortunate for them. And Danawa here trying to get into this rotation north of Novo. They'll find a spot. But Sun Sisters could kind of hold them at bay here. It will be a difficult spot for Danawa to rotate towards the middle of the circle later.
It's out of the car and at least makes it to that position. Puts Sludon on off angle while the rest of them can play around in. They got building control, which is okay. One of the players inside the circle gives them an avenue of approach. It gives them some sort of land stability. But unfortunately, all the entirety Sun Sister is directly in front of them, so they have to certainly be careful. Jeff Locker, a name that we've been saying quite a few things about in the past. Gonna step up to the plate. Crazy Sam above him, pulling on the angle as well to hold it. Finally, position was noted. About to say he hasn't given up the ghost yet, but as soon as he opened this door, he should be dead to rights. Unless Sam just wants to try and wall bang this one, shoot down the door and get it. It's possible.
This is a potentially good 1v1. Crazy Sam and Jeff Locker, fantastic players. Looking for the angle. Jeff Locker does go down to Crazy Sam after a bit of a distraction. Brilliant stuff by Sun Sister to take that one to start things off. Another spray coming in against the vehicle. Doesn't quite get it. Charges the nade. Tendesu gets Rex. Little charge up, but he doesn't realize that Salute's moved a little bit further forwards.
That's a decent nade on the left-hand side, right-hand side from his teammate to be able to put it on the vert side of it. Polis steps upon the off angle, and now they are being collapsed upon. More players upside of the hill. It's, yeah, they're in a very, very nasty position. However, that is a belting. The only problem is for MP5's directly with this.
Yeah, Suns in turn, but that was a brilliant from Suns. A great engagement from them. They take out Danawa, complete elimination. That was brilliant by Sun Sister. Admittedly, Danawa were in a rough spot. We jumped it before they came in to try and go over that, but the kill feed is going to light up. Under is taking the fight to Fighting Bees, and they get knocked out of the ring.
Yeah, another low position. Unfortunately, it's not going to seat them any better when it comes to points. Still on 0 by the looks of it, down in 15th after 3 games. It is what it is. We still continue. Anything can happen. It is PUBG. You're not out of it just yet. Still more one game of Miramar to go today. M88 will follow afterwards. Pure Boy putting the nail in the coffin. Magic. And we spoke about Radio. It is current. I say the current position. Eventually, they are going to have to come down from here, and we'll see if what we spoke about at the start of this game, James, really comes into the fold.
Yeah. I mean, I like E36 positions. I like Curson's position. I don't mind Africa Freak's position. Sun Sister, right now, yes, they took the fight, the points, but they're going to have to fight on their way in as well, as they're already being picked up by EJ. Venus Gaming, unfortunately for them, as they transitioned on, will be eliminated. And we will see them fight another day. Damwon Kia, quite the formidable opponent when you're coming across that bridge, and they've taken the crossroads.
Quick pause for stability at the moment. P5 just making sure no one is behind them. That is an explosion, fortunately, to seal Kane's fate. So here we are. Amanot straight in the vehicle, and away we go. These are the hills in particular that I would mention in previous, where MP5 might try and make some kind of landfall once you come down from this radio. That's a really good maneuver for E36 to get there early and take control of it. By doing so, yeah, may even give them the center circle should it go down towards the south. A very zealous Vertnade. You know, I respect the attempt. I won't, so I don't. But the Damwon Kia, you are going to have Sun Sister knocking at the door, and something you need to be aware of. This is good suppressive fire up onto 5, 336. But again, the more noise you're going to be making here, the more presence you'll be letting teams approach from. I suppose it's another good thing as well if anyone wants to try and work the way, which is where Detonation Gaming White is from the Millie side.
I mean, as long as you're firing at them and covering the angle constantly, making that team apprehensive about either peeking at the angle or coming down from that angle is pretty good, considering the amount of circle that they have. And generally, when we see these circles happen, the winner comes from either E36's position or Africa Freaks' position, not necessarily that radio tower spot. Which is a weird juxtaposition of the situation, but there you go. Another comes in. Will this connect? It's close. Nice bounce. Oh, bye-bye, Gammy.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I was angling it more towards the right-hand side to hit it on the angle, which it does perfectly. Bounces off, finds its first target. Second one's there. More importantly, they're going to be they're getting through it clean with all 4 players up. There's a little bit of time here, but it's the approach that we need to make note of and see how this one goes, because you are going to have several teams directly in front of them. That's a belting shot out the back of the vehicle. They will try and give him hard cover, building themselves a little fortress, but the more times you do this, the more open to fire from different angles. They'll lose the vehicle. They've committed to the course here, James. This will be an interesting one. They've basically given up 50% of their team for this one res.
Yep, trying as they might. Damwon Kia might be able to get out of here. The smokes are not bad. But MP5 keeps hitting these shots. And Fanghua, the guy with the arm in game number 1, using the mini to full effect. Now, what is important about MP5 right now is they don't have much loot. You're looking at the ammo that Fanghua has right now. They can stay up on the radio tower for as long as they want in these circles currently, but every time you're taking shots here, you're running dry. Because they came here very early in the game. Gonna have to trade ammo.
Yeah, that is a good point, actually. I mean, at least they've got a lot of utility. It is away from it, but not only that, they are going to fight. They have to come down from here, and with the position that all the other teams currently have in front of them, it won't be this transition. Rather north, we get this area as a final ending. We've seen it to Millie base. We've seen it basically with this circle. We see it go to the left and right. It's rather rare that we circle within this actual compound.
Yeah.
And Rascal Jester's position, if they get this compound ending, like, this is just disaster for everybody else, because they can cover such a large amount of ground. They got the split coverage, 2 players either side of the compounds, and just think where Ghibli, Damwon Kia, to get up and into that compound specifically, it's a rather hard ridgeline, and that's where MP5 will then look into its silhouette third party. Yeah, this could be really difficult for many a player, many a team to get in.
But by the same token, for Damwon, Kira, and Ghibli, it does provide them quite a bit of cover until that circle may shift away from that location. One thing I'm scared about, Rich, is MP5 coming off of Radio Tower now, because I would argue that the west side is probably the hardest side to traverse off when it comes to that hill.
Definitely. I mean, they've still got a small amount that they can actually just at least drop it to the south and then loop themselves, especially with the blue not fully being here as well. You can even extend that a little bit further. Maybe we can see that a Freak of Freaks actually are shooting given the tracer fire, so maybe they try and wrap on a Freak of Freaks. It all depends what angles E36 are holding. You've at least got some sort of a dip and some sort of cover. You will be able to get out their line of sight, but really it's probably a Freak of Freaks that are the biggest issue here for MP5, because wrapping is going to be such a huge problem.
Yeah, maybe. Team Curson and E36 keep ending up near each other in these games as well. And we'll see if that comes to fruition in terms of a fight, as Ghibli is just looking for angles where they lost our newest addition to the team, a great addition, I might add, as we saw him in T1, really doing well at PGIS. And I've got high hopes for Ghibli. Actually, Rich, they're one of my favorite Korean teams of all time. There you go.
you keep selling me that between Ghibli and Rascal Jester. You've been selling me, James. I'm hoping to see big things.
I just like cheeky names. Rascal Jester, Ghibli, you know. Lads. But Damwon, Kira have actually rotated to the west side, which I sort of didn't entirely expect. So there might be a bit of a conflict coming on there with Kira and Ghibli eventually.
Keep a track of it and see how it goes. That is a lot of return fire. Pushing straight down. Gokuri watching. Chow on the left-hand side. They're actually going to smoke this and try and go for it. So the information that Gokuri could pass back is inside as well. Oof. All right, so it doesn't really have to move. Eventually, we'll have to go around that vehicle. So Curzon will have a quick look on it, but it's only one player up on this hillside. The rest of them are going to be very problematic. Look to it, the wrong time. Now he makes it across into the summation. Will come back from his teammate at least. And this is rough. This is real rough. And with that circle primed on that main compound, Rascal Jester is just watching everybody die.
Yeah, I really didn't expect the circle to go this way, if I'm honest. We just don't see these finishes in this compound. But, I mean, as my rural spiritual leader, my prophet, my Dalai farmer, Richard Sims, did predict, MP5 comes off this radio tower to the south, because, again, it's so hard to go west. And actually, Africa Freaks has had a move there. I'm going to be moving over towards Team Curson here, running into them. This could be a big battle. Very important. Comes out of the smoke. Does not get the kill. Roha Sasa is able to pick him up quite quickly, and the kill feed is lighting up now.
Yeah, even for a Freak of Freaks, like picking up many a frag at the moment, regardless of how many bodies they've still got left within play, they are doing so well. 8 kills for game 1, 14 kills game 2. It keeps on going, and it just doesn't stop. And that's kind of the same story as we're looking towards Damwon, Kira as well. Under puts another one on the board. Gokuri goes down. Looking down the barrel as well. You said it was going to be rough, James. Well, it doesn't get much worse than this. Straight off the back of the rocks, and instantly with that first rotate to get down here, they've lost 2 players. Like,
yeah,
how realistically, what can you do from this position next time they have to move? Like, you're so open and so exposed to almost everybody at this point.
It's honestly a trap is Radio Tower and Radio Hill. It's so difficult to deal with. God, out of the blue. Okay, I think he makes it. He'll continue to fall off.
Got a bit of a jump here, though.
He'll be right.
Yeah, we're fine.
He'll be right. Hey, well. We got Damwon here, though. Side with Ghibli kind of coexist. Thought that wide to the west was opening him up a position, but Under has actually now taken that spot and is looking over towards Ghibli. Meanwhile, Jester is holding this compound down well. The 2-2 split that they've got going on here has not afforded anybody entry into there so far, and that's absolutely what you need to do. The only problem, Rich, is when the circle then collapses and then the pinch comes in from all angles. What are you thinking?
I'm so glad you brought it up. That's okay. Curzon going down. Never mind. We'll carry on. I'm going to say we'll pause for a second on the fight, but the second we see it, it's already done and dusted. Chow holding. Information's going to be in abundance as well with those shots connecting from his teammate on his left-hand side. Good near to roll onto it. Yeah, the underhand's there. No target found. Actually forced him back as well by going into that position. Left him a little bit exposed. Find one of these finally, holds him for a second, more damage. Now we can push down on the left hand side. EB maybe, I suppose his teammate comes in, sees and says, you know what, hold on that for a second because I don't have the full heal. But yeah, what you mentioned over Rascal Jester, it's it. Oh dear. Never mind, I'll hold for a second because that's a banging nade.
Caesar's going to have to get him quickly if he's going to get him, because Ghibli's going to push on that. I'm almost positive. That being said, though, Under going to be firing over on that direction as well. Has to lie down. Gives Ghibli the opening. They cross over, get C's, get themselves the kill. Nice little push. Every time you get yourself a knock like that, you know your opponents have a window of recovery, and Ghibli is able to exploit it perfectly.
Campbell will go low here, and these fights, James, just make Rascal Jester's win almost a certainty at this point. You spoke about it ever so slightly, what happens when all these teams collapse in. You've got such a huge compound with resources split in a 2-2 formation. Like, well, if all the teams are broken on arrival, then in theory it shouldn't.
Yeah, what if they never collapse?
Exactly. Like, they haven't moved as well, so Simbi's position isn't noted by Kayle, and he does drop down in there. It's almost certainly a flush.
They're going to get stretched apart here. Split this late. I don't know if it's going to work out. Right now, with Damwon Kia on top of that position, he gets himself Wicked to Shinobi. Very well done there to start things off. But where's the return? Where is extra Damwon Kia members pushing on forwards? We know Wicked likes to play solo here. Here comes Kayle trying to go for the spray with the barrel. Finding another angle to approach this. Will they be able to get it?
It's a nice approach as he drops down and goes straight for the peak. The corner as well, hide the body, and this is the breach and clear. Damwon Kia, the numbers are not in their favor, so if Rascal Jester can get this as clean as possible, then that's a GG win. Ghibli, on the other hand, down, but certainly not out yet.
The only problem is this cross is just flat terrain, isn't it?
It's treacherous. You've got a couple of walls, and that's about it.
Difficult. The Korean squads here, Rich, are going to effectively have to work together to get Rascal Jester out of this position.
It ain't easy. It'll be a bit of a game of chess at this moment with the pieces moving around. Blue won't be faring anyone any worse. And I suppose the only good thing for Ghibli is at the moment, where's his second player perpendicular to him? I'm trying to look at this from his perspective. Is he right next to him?
Kayle is shooting at the other 2-2, which means that they might be distracted for Ghibli to be able to push up here.
I'm trying to think if Gabba's positioned, if he can actually help out Beershun, if there's any actual angle to watch that cross, because if Spear and Lambo just lay into Beershun with suppressive fire, I think given a garage, he doesn't have a window. He'd have to go out the back door and be able to look at it, which is exactly what he's done now, a quick peek. At the moment, Gabba's not really a huge help to anybody.
This is very interesting because you don't normally see this kind of 2v2v4 situation where the duos absolutely are not going to fight each other unless Lambu sees down that angle, but I don't think he's doing. And they're going to have to unroot Rascal Jester here, but Rascal Jester are still playing this extremely well.
Utility is finally being committed, and the AoE denials there. Try and get the burning as they go through the mollies as well. Hide it with smoke. Getting out the line of sight and hope for the best. Set the trap. Simbi's coming back into the fold. Kayle still wandering ever so close. Now Lambu. This is where things might get easier for Rascal Jester, as if they keep Under at bay towards that angle and make this his only approach. Force Kia and give essentially to run into one another like the circle would allow it. It's come down from the mountainside. It's blocked off the back of this compound. Depends. Kayle, what does he do to the two that are with him?
Yeah, and the strat. I don't mind the and hoping that duos fight one another. Right now, it's for Rascal just quite unpredictable about which angles exactly Ghibli and Kia are going to try and take. Not exactly the angle of approach, but just like, are they taking a small wall? Are they trying to wrap around onto that little shed, for example? And they are playing it very patiently. And they're consolidating themselves. They're getting themselves together. And you've spoken about that a lot, Rich, in the past. And this is it. They forced this fight to happen because they were careful and calculated and passive about approaching the duos. And now the duos are eating each other.
Gale going down also doesn't fare them any better.
Oh, it's perfect.
Yeah, this is exactly picture perfect what they wanted. It's the response. They put them all to the outskirts. They've done this little setup where it's 2-2 still, but it's the back buildings. Yeah, let the other two teams eat each other alive and then strike when the iron's hot. Don't get me wrong, still any of these players are explosive and anything can happen, but I never want to count out the 1 versus 4 possibilities, especially with some of the stuff we saw through the winner chicken dinner format, PGIS, but against this now, against all these odds, I just don't see it happening whatsoever. Under an versus 4, anything left in the tank, we shall see.
Perfectly calculated by Rascal Jester. Brilliant stuff. Under, though, gets himself his first with the barrel. Don't give him the 1v1s. They gave him a 1v1, and that's how someone like Under will come back. And they don't give him it.
Denied. Simple as that. I like the fact that he still checked it to his left-hand side. It was good, but ultimately it's Rascal Jester who come out with the win. That plateau, it's just fed them so much, James. Like, given how the position of the circle folded, given how they set up early, it was good that they were keeping control of that. That's the most important, right? They wasn't just backing themselves and hiding away in one building. They actually took the plateau for everybody, for impressive fire back, and ultimately just made everyone on the edge of the outskirts. They did try towards that compound area.
Absolutely. I think that you, as Rascal Jester there, you have 4 alive, and you know you're likely fighting against 2 squads. Considering the fact that there is 2 to the north and 2 to the south, very unlikely a whole squad is going to be separated in that way. Why give them 2 2v2s? Give yourself the 4-man advantage and work it from there. Brilliant stuff from Rascal Jester.
I still like at the end the solo player checks his left-hand angle because he knows what's going to happen, but ultimately, when you've not really been in any close combat fights, you look towards the side of Rascal Jester, they're going to have all the utility in the world. They're going to have all the lethal utility still alive and kicking. Yes, a few mollies were put down to try and deny. It might have actually been Damwon to be fair, who were throwing the mollies the side of Rascal Jester to stop them coming outside of the compounds themselves and the buildings. Yeah. But yeah, in that kind of predicament, it's been quiet. No one's been able to breach that compound. You've got all utility towards the end. It should be an easy GG, and it most certainly is. But again, still, with the amount of frags that I'm seeing from certain teams, it should be able to at least keep them at the top, even though it's not the win.
That's right. Kia and Ghibli getting a lot from that game. At least like I had 11 or 8 kills each. Very, very nicely done. We're going to go to a short break, ladies and gentlemen. When we return, we have a panel with Ilu as well as our Miramar game coming up right after this.
I'm Ashley Goshengfiao, and I'm a proud Predator ambassador. My all-time favorite games would have to be Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, FF9 to be more specific, and right now I'm really enjoying Valorant. I started playing video games at an early age, probably around years old. Actually, my mom would always say that she has been playing video games while she was pregnant with me and my sister, so I guess before we were even born. It was actually just me watching my older cousin, Kuya Lloyd, play Super Mario on the family computer. So yeah, he was the one who started it all for us. Right now, because I have a lot of things going on, probably around 4 to 5 hours per day, I would play video games. My most unforgettable gaming experience. Oh, okay. It was when my sister and we were really young and we were playing Final Fantasy VII, the original version, and my sister was having a stomach ache, or so she would tell me, that her stomach was painful at the time. And that was the part where we were looking for the lunar harp, so you have to dig through this mining campsite or something, and then when I finally found the harp, her stomach ache went away. So nauto ako dun. My favorite RPG character would be Kairi from Kingdom Hearts because, well, number one, Kingdom Hearts is my favorite game. Number two, I kind of like relate to her because she's such a carefree person and she lives on the beach. My go-to food while playing video games would probably be chicken nuggets. Meanest tweet, I just remember people saying my sister and I aren't really gamers, but my favorite Predator product would probably be the Helio 700. It's so cool because when you open the thing and when you make it overclock, it turns the sound on and then it sounds like it's gonna transform, so it's just really cool. To be totally honest, I feel like 100 times cooler because aside from my sister, Alodia, also being a Predator ambassador, I'm also alongside so many notable people in the gaming industry. So that just makes me feel like, wow, I'm so cool being a Predator ambassador.
Rascal Jester, the first Japanese team to take a chicken dinner here today. Let's see if they can continue that trend as they've been performing better and better. We touched on them a little bit earlier, but they seem to have found more and more of their stride. Again, I'm Lestrado. You're joining me here today on this wonderful, wonderful evening. And alongside me, of course, Orosaurus in Black and Blue. Let's start to break down that last map. I'm going to go for you. I'm going to go straight to you first, Black and Blue. Tell me about what happened in that one.
Well, for one, I really like the adjustment made by RJ. As we saw, Rascal Jester actually coming out of map number 2. I was like, they're the team, but I'm looking here to actually, make the most improvement and get the chicken dinner at the end of things, because they do have going for them. They have the momentum from the last few maps, even though, yeah, they were getting removed early on, especially map number 1 during that first round, because, well, zone just didn't go for them. Now going for kind of like 50-50 of a zone here, it kind of was like you had to have to hard gamble. In that case, they bet on the right horse, which is going down towards that mill base and actually holding on. They took the boat in from the coastline, worked their way down from the north side of that island, and, well, in the end, they just had the right positions. You can see during that last few zones of it, there were 4 of them still up alive. They had kind of like a 2-1-1 split, with 2 of them in a building, the other 2 having one of their own. And while they necessarily couldn't rotate around throughout too much, they did have the right positions already anchored down from the beginning of things to really hold on and, well, get the chicken dinner and lots more from that.
I think beyond the chicken dinner, the amount of kills that we saw from certain teams just absolutely staggering here. I think we would be very much if we didn't talk about and how they bridged and ended up with 14 here on into that half here. Unfortunately, they weren't able to secure that, but I think they'll be happy with that performance, Poro, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head, right? This is a team that we've been looking at that has had some, you got to keep talking about it. They haven't had questionable international performances recently, and now we see them set up on a military island circle, a 50-50 circle that's, could go any which way, and they managed to make themselves a little spot here at the crossroads, and you can see them just feasting. Oh my gosh, off of poor FTB. Fighting Bees just not having a day so far, but they end up picking up a few more off of Venus as well, and surviving, really. I mean, they were very much under fire from MP5 on that radio tower hill, but they still managed to get 3 into that late game, playing that western wall and doing smart plays. They didn't wrap too far onto Ghibli whenever Ghibli got into their fight here with DGW. You can see on the mini-map, even in this replay, Kia starting to look down over here and starting to consider getting over and getting involved in this, but instead they pull off. They do a little bit of a questionable push into the compound with RJ, but again, I think at that point they were like, we're down to 2. The likelihood of winning this is pretty low. Let's just try to get as many points as we can, and boy, they did. They got the points.
They did, and they ended up taking the lead as well. I'm pretty sure after Afrika Freaks went down a little bit too early, the lead ended up swinging in the favor of Kia's way. We're not 100% sure until we do see that leaderboard, but for the most part, I'm fairly certain that Kia are going to be at the very tippy top of that right now. Let's talk a little bit about the other teams here. Ghibli, they got caught on bridge at the very beginning, caught in rotation trying to get towards that military base island. Eventually they did come out alive and actually found a nice little spot towards the south side of the circle towards the end. They just didn't get lucky enough there in the fight. It ended up in a 4v2 towards the latest stages of the circle. What do you think went down there? How do you think that those final plays from Rascal Jester netted them that win, Black and Blue?
Well, as I said earlier on, they were, early to get into that position and really anchored things down. You can see all the teams around them. There was kind of like a scruffle here on where, the teams can really take the advantageous positions. You saw MP5, who very valiantly, might I add, because early on they were kind of in a rough spot, but able to still get into those last few zones, playing the radio tower, getting that good position. In the end, the zone did not close for them, so they had to go down. For the other teams around them, like, for example, Ghibli, well, they actually had a good shot at bringing that one home. I think in the end, it just kind of came into a factor where they were outgunned and outnumbered from so many different angles. It just didn't fall their way, but they did have a shot to bring that one there, I think more so than any of the other duos that were still left in the final fights.
Wesker doing quite well today. He's been leading the charge for his team, getting another 2 kills in that previous map. And let's not forget how he ended up getting that double with those nades previously up against Afrika Freaks TV. Afrika Freaks, they were actually pretty phenomenal, and I think they're starting to gain steam right now. But let's talk about players individually that are gaining steam. Taking a look at Predators of the last game rather. EJ, am I seeing this right? 13 kills. Oh, this is overall. Okay. For a moment there, I held my breath and I was just like, there's no way that's right. EJ, 13 kills up on the top. Right behind him, you got Renba, and under Simba and Lambu, Poru Poro, these guys are just absolutely amazing here. EJ, it's gonna take a while before anyone catches up to him.
I mean, he's just on another level right now. I mean, he is playing out of his mind. I feel like the damage numbers may be a little bit misleading there. I think it's got to be a little bit more than that. We'll have to double check that to be sure. But I mean, just the fact that you're seeing this top 5, mostly Korean, not overly surprising. The fact that Simba is still up here for Curzon, he's holding on with everything he can, but. Man, it's starting to look like he's starting to slide down here a little bit. Curzon had a pretty decent game plan for that last game. Unfortunately, it didn't really go their way on a very congested south side. But yeah, these are names that I would definitely expect to be up here in the top of the overall our big predators of the lobby.
Talking about Ghibli now, Renba and Lambu, 2 players that have now made their mark. 9 kills for Renba, 8 for Lambu. And they're sort of finding their stride. They're placing quite well, not getting the chicken dinners, sure, but they're getting kills along the way. This might not be enough to win them the tournament, Black and Blue, but for the most part, it seems like it's a slow and steady ascent to what might be a crescendo of victory here. It could be the culmination. I mean, at some point, they must take it. But they got to do better than this. Could it be on Miramar? Well, I'll get back to you on that real quickly. But before that, let's take a look at the leaderboards. Kia now solidifying 42 points, and right behind them, Afrika. It's a tight top 2, Black and Blue.
It very much so is here at Illustrado. You can see like literally 3 points away from tying things on up here, Afrika Freaks. And so while they don't have a chicken dinner on the board just yet, sometimes it's not the most important thing that you might have if you can make up for it with the insane amount of frags that they are netting. I mean, EJ alone, dude, he has like half of the team. He has 13 on him. They have 25 right now. He has almost half of that, or if not actually more with 13. So them just their firepower alone can definitely net them, these points that do help excel and propel them further up in the leaderboard. You can see actually Ghibli doing the same thing here. They do get a decent amount of points at the end of every single map, and that has been keeping them in the game. Not a single chicken dinner in their hands yet, unlike MP5 and Rascal Jester, but those guys are, a lot lower down here on the board. Actually quite a big discrepancy moving on from the 3rd to the 4th and down then onwards. It's a lot more difficult now for the teams to be able to get into those top 3 slots with Afrika Freaks, Ghibli, and Kia. All these 3 Korean teams performing so well. They're so consistent right now. Even without 2 of them having chicken dinners, they're still up there to be one of the winners.
Yeah, but looking at the bottom half, however, you got M88, Venus Gaming, and Fighting Bees. Somebody needs to hashtag save the bees right now and sort of get these guys back in it, because right now we're not really seeing much. They're getting a little bit off time. They're getting a little bit caught off in rotation. Just not their series here today. But maybe that'll change when it comes into Miramar. We're almost ready to go into it, though. I do want to bring up something quite important here. Miramar, we're finally going to get into it. Is this going to be a little bit of a shock for the teams? I mean, I'm sure they all know how to play Miramar at this point. But after 3 games of Erangel, this has got to be a little bit of a, stunner for these guys. Porter, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that this is going to be good for them because, we've said, like we said, some brutal circles here on Erangel so far. Every single circle has had water in it at some point. Miramar, the likelihood of that happening is a lot less. Hopefully, we'll see them get a very plain middle circle, 100% playable. It'll open things up for a lot of these teams to where they don't have to be crowded and cramped in there for Circle 1 and Circle 2 and have their transition rotation paths beaten up a little bit. We'll see how it plays off, but man, I gotta point out after looking at that leaderboard, EJ has more kills by himself than 11 teams in this lobby. That is just ridiculous.
That's insane.
That's a disgusting statistic.
It's nuts.
That shouldn't happen. That just ain't right, man. That just ain't right. But it is what it is. And at the end of the day, we got players like EJ showing up, not just fragging, but also shot calling for his team. Just inspiring leader, probably giving the rest of the members some bardic inspiration right there. But Black and Blue, let's figure this out right here. One thing I want to know, Curzon, they're falling off hard. They started strong, and right now they can't seem to pick up the pace. They've lost the last 2 maps. I mean, the situation is getting worse and worse. How is this happening right now for these guys?
Well, they're the type of team that likes to take the initiative. Another team that is quite similar to how they play right now is MP5. And both of these teams, as I said, they like taking the initiative. They're more proactive than reactive. But at the same time, sometimes, they kind of get over greedy. They kind of overextend sometimes in some fights. We saw that especially from MP5 earlier on the third map that we had here. Fortunately for them, they're able to get deeper into the the match. But still, the lesson still stands here, where they do overextend sometimes even taking fights that they don't necessarily need to be taking. And even though they might not lose a member in those skirmishes, they do end up getting drained for that very precious sustainability of having the health, the healing packs still up on you. Once they don't have meds, that's pretty much the end of your game. And so right now, I think they have to be a bit more careful in how they're playing exactly. Maybe as we're moving to Miramar, I know it's a bit larger. Now we're moving into an 8x8 fully sized map with about 80% of it is going to be actual, land. We don't have as much water anymore. And so hopefully that's going to give us, as Por was saying, a more playable circle. And I think that will also play into the play style of these two teams who like taking these frags, who like taking these gunfights quite early on and all throughout the match. You like taking those, skirmishes and matches. But they have to be on the move. They have to be mobile, which definitely does play into their play style of being proactive. Take a book from Kia once more. You're going to need the vehicles certainly here, especially on Miramar, such a large and open map. Long sight lines to be covered, lots of ground to be moved through. That's going to be the game plan here, I believe, for a team like Kherson.
I agree. Kherson, if they can, this probably, I think, bodes well for them. If they can keep the same playstyle up, this might actually work out for them, because we know they like to go aggressive. We know they like to go hard. Might be a little bit more difficult considering the nature of the map. So many open field, just wide open spaces, but not, but also they're going to be able to pinch out players who are caught in the open as well. That just might be it. But earlier you mentioned something, and that was the med situation. We saw the faltering of a couple of teams like JDI, who got caught off fighting in the circle without any meds. A lot of questionable stuff for that. And I know you have something to say about this, Poro. Just frustration on both of our parts when we saw them taking just those fights out right before the bridge. They didn't have anything. What's up with that, man?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you could tell. I mean, you could absolutely tell that was a fight that neither one of those teams wanted to be in. They did not want it. But we were saying it from the very beginning of that circle that it was kind of a 50-50 circle. So there was going to be a lot of action around those esports boat spawns, that kind of the consistent spawns that you see for boats on that coastline. So the fact that they ran into that, they should have been ready for a fight. They should have been waiting for somebody to be for that same boat. B, once they figured out that there was somebody there, if you're a team like JDI, or I think the other team was who was it?
I think it was PSTR.
PSTR. We saw as that fight was progressing, they had no meds. They had nothing in pocket. Yeah. You've got to, if you're, especially if you're the shot caller, you've got to be able to read that situation and say, look, this is mutually assured destruction. Like, we might get a kill or two off of this, but after that, we're done. I mean, that's not a worth fight. So I think if you're the team, even if you've got a couple of knocks there, or maybe a kill or two, you've got to be able to be the one that says, you know what, this is not as important as getting into this next circle and trying to make it to late game. Unfortunately for them, they didn't do that time, and the shot calling a little bit late. So, lesson learned. That's what you got to take it as, and shake it off, move it into the next game, and don't let it happen again.
Sometimes it's all you can do, just shake it off and move along, because definitely something that they'll have to do after a little bit of an awkward skirmish like that one here. But going into the upcoming games here, I'm going to be talking about this, however, after this short break, because when we return, though, it's going to be Miramar. Finally, we get to see it after 3 long Erangel games. But again, my name is Illustrato, and on behalf of this panel, Porosaurus and Black and Blue, we'll see you guys in a bit. Don't go anywhere.
X38 is the latest high-octane curved display from Predator. This zero-frame behemoth has a 37.5-inch span and a 2300R curve in glorious 21:9, so that you can fill your peripheral vision with pure gameplay for all-out immersion. And with a very ergonomical stand, positioning this colossal display is quite easy, allowing you to tilt, pivot, swivel, and adjust the height as needed, so that comfort is maintained even through long gaming sessions. Naturally, you have all the latest ports needed, as well as 2 powerful 7-watt speakers should a headset not suffice. Though the X38 is ideal for hardcore enthusiasts and esports pros alike, what sets it apart, besides a crisp, ultra-wide QHD Plus resolution, is the Agile Splendor IPS panel it uses. This panel makes it possible to push the response time up to 0.3 milliseconds while maintaining a color gamut of DCI-P3 98% and Delta E less than 2, so that colors and details remain vivid. Add on the 175Hz refresh rate and you have a blisteringly fast monitor that keeps all the fast-paced action coming through nice and smooth with almost no ghosting, color bending, or torn frames. Make sure those frames look as pristine as possible. NVIDIA G-Sync keeps frame rate locked to the output of your GPU, while Display HDR 400 certification allows you to enjoy HDR content in or outside of gaming. So if you're looking to go all out, it's time to introduce the monumental X38 to your game setup.
Miramar is nigh. We've been waiting for it all day long, and we finally get to see it at the very end of a very bloody day here. And to talk about that map, of course, is going to be me, Illustrato, and joining me on this panel is Black and Blue and Porosaurus. Porosaurus, talk to me a little bit about Miramar. How are you for this one?
I'm pumped about it. I'm very excited about favorite map in PUBG. I love the sight lines. I love the long range battles. I love the mid range battles. It's all fantastic stuff. And I'm really excited to get to see this lobby play on that map now, especially after what we already mentioned, really difficult, tough circles there on Erangel.
I'd be so mad if I were on seeing on those circles, those 3 circles, one after the other, all on the East Coast. Teams that like to play on the West Side, definitely not happy about that. I'd be tilted for sure. And I'm expecting to see more sweaty circles as the day progresses. We have one more coming up your way, and it's going to be on Miramar, as we said. And I'm looking forward to seeing where the teams exactly drop, and I wouldn't call myself an expert on this by any means. So Black and Blue, what do we expect to see coming into this map? Will we see a different change of playstyle, drastic change of playstyle from these teams, or is it going to be more of the same thing?
there are teams that I do think should be kind of, refining some things, especially we talked about MP5 and Kherson, who have been a bit too over-aggressive and do overextend every now and then. That's something I think they have to rectify. But them being the aggressive team that we know them to be, like taking those gunfights, hopefully here that, as we move into Miramar, we're going to have an actual playable, decent circle to start things off, because that will kind of lend into their playstyle a bit more. The rest of the teams, they have been, as we said, getting unfortunate, especially the ones who like playing on the western side. So we've had 3 zones today out of the 3 maps that have been quite awkward ones. I'm hoping to see a bit more, back to the basics, on paper style PUBG, bread and butter of what we know and what we love from this game as we move into Miramar. Now, as Poru mentioned a while ago, Miramar, being as wide and expansive as it is, does lend itself to a lot of long-range sightlines, which means you probably want to go to stay on the move or anchor on down. There's no in-between. You can't get caught with your pants down, just walking on through. He snipes you, takes off your head with a Kar 98. And so what you really want to be doing right now is employ something that we saw teams like Kia do quite a bit, whereas they are always quite mobile there. It looks like a Mad Max, epic scene whenever they're on the move, because especially coming on Miramar, that has to be one of the main things that the teams are going to want to employ.
I mean, one of the worst things that can happen to you in general, not just in PUBG, is when you're caught with your pants down and just trying to walk around, live your best life, and then somebody Kar 98 you in the face. It's not a good day when that happens, But for a lot of these teams, they've gotten used to that kind of thing here, especially in the land of Miramar. One of the maps that I'd say I absolutely love, but honestly, the map that I love the most, we're not going to be seeing it here today, but with a lot of teams, aggressive play styles, don't shake your head at me. I see you right there. Sandhawk would be so good on these teams, just like Kherson.
I do miss it a little bit. I do miss it a little bit.
Come on, it's like the map that, it's like the family relative that you don't really like seeing at the Christmas parties, but when he's not there, he's like, I do kind of miss him, isn't it?
Maybe just a little bit.
Just a little bit, though. But moving on, it ain't Thanksgiving yet. We still have to get through the rest of the year. But I am quite thankful that we're moving into the game quite shortly. We're very, very much ready for it. And before I do that, of course, I do have to take this moment to thank all of our sponsors. So big thank you to none other than Predator Gaming. Summon your strength. They have made this entire tournament possible. Of course, use the hashtag summon your strength in your everyday life. Everything that you do, whether you're taking a picture of your food, summon your strength. It applies in every facet, every walk of life. And of course, we do have some special prizes giving away to not just you guys at home. We do have some special. We're giving loot boxes to the people who have been refunded for the VIP tickets, and we're also giving away prizes to the MVPs for each tournament. One for Dota 2, one for PUBG as well. They're getting away some really stuff: the H35 laptop and an Intel MVP trophy, and that's going to be decided by us talents, by the players, and by you, the fans there at home. If you want to vote for your favorite player, whether it's on Dota 2 or it's on PUBG, all you gotta do is hit on Twitter. Slide into those DH or at Predator Gaming, and they'll take care of it. These guys know it. But it's that I'm gonna go to the game itself. Before I go, whose map's Poroku? And I'll go first and then go straight to Black and Blue.
I'm gonna say Danawa. I think every other Korean team has stepped up. Danawa has been slipping, so I think they're gonna use this last map to try to get some points back there and find their way upboard.
Said this at the very start of the day. There have been other kings at the top of that Korean scene. Africa's Danawa. I think it's a Ghibli show coming on at second place, only a point away from taking that top. I think this is their shot.
I actually was just Ghibli, but now I can't. I'll say Africa takes it this time. So let's go right with the land of Miramar. Casters, take it away.
That's right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Black and Blue Ilu. Right. That's right. Ghibli. It's the Ghibli show. All day, baby. We'll see. We'll see. Of course, the Korean team's doing very well so far here. I'm joined by Mr. Sims to break down the action. How's it going, fella?
It's going pretty well. And now we get a different map altogether. It feels weird only casting 2 games, but it feels weirder even doing just 1, 2 different maps simultaneously like that back to back and just bouncing off 2 different lands. But I suppose for you, Jim, how's it going your side? What's it like being back casting again?
Oh, don't even. It is fantastic. Something coming into Miramar. I'm hyped because I'm looking towards Sarah and I'm looking towards potentially Impala if we see some conflicts here. Looking at Rascal Jester and obviously Danawa, who like to split across Chumacera. That's a big focus for me. And then usually you see Detonation Gaming and Team Curse moving over towards Impala. We'll see if that comes to fruition. There could be some shakeups though.
It's a little bit more. It's one of those maps where we look at it and we see it time and time again. I consistently bang on about it when we're doing these games as such. It's a lot more predictable than what Erangel is. Yes, with Erangel, we have nuances. We have certain areas that we know it likes to fold to. But the hillsides and the mountains and the cliff faces play such a dominating factor. With the Miramar, it's just something that we need to be aware of and something that we always keep watch of. A few shots towards the distance. Really falls into effect here, and you have those huge compounds on. Let's say huge compounds, but huge, smaller compounds. Sorry, but up on huge hillsides, which give you a good amount of viewership over the land. No one can really get to you. You're the king of the castle. It's very hard to approach. It's very hard to breach. So certainly the top side now really comes into a very strong position within this circle itself. Even better that nobody is beyond them. This is totally theirs to decide where they want to go, where they want to set up shop, what they want to do. We actually have, when we look at this circle as such, compared to the flight path that came in, all the teams be more polar opposite to this circle. Everybody is going to have to wrap around. And where they wrap to, I suppose, is a very defining part within this game, because it's mainly that western embankment, I've got to be honest, James. Monte Nuevo, it only clips the edge of the circle. You have the hillside, so really there's quite a lot of bottlenecks here that could come into play.
I mean, JDI has the perfect opportunity, right? From what you're saying, like, if they wrap southwest and then go into those that we know are going to very likely play. Once this circle comes along, that taking those central positions, taking those central foothills will work out nicely. So, like it, Manoa.
A few bullets fired from Salutes the Go symbol for MP5. They now know someone's here and potentially separated on their own if he gets anything onto that vehicle and follows it through and be able to knock him. I like the aggression. It happened. I was going to suggest that maybe aggression from MP5's the tool into this one, but do it anyway. They push the one player out. It's a bit preemptive to put one player at the foothills of that little divot, so to speak, going up towards Church. He hears the one single gun. Maybe if they multiple, they would have done something different. 911. Wait. They're checking this, but he's not showing his hand just yet. That's rather smart, because once they turn onto this, his teammates on the opposing side laying fire, but again, he's playing as a one-man band, and that's the only...
Yeah, he's a one-man split MP5. So while MP5 with Danawa in terms of their move 3-1 split, Sun Sisters coming to cause some problems here. And Sun Sisters dropping Picardo, they have free reign to rotate wherever they would like and wherever please. This is a very Liquid-esque rotation towards this location, and yeah, MP5 could easily lose someone here. Fight MP5 in this tournament after just 3 or 4 games. They're actually very formidable. They're willing to take good fights,
which I'm fine with. And I think in a lobby like this, where you do have, and this is where it means BM whatsoever, but when there is a very distinct lack of middle ground, teams teams. You have a very upper echelon, and then you have quite a disparity in strengths of teams. So that middle pack is kind of open for the taking if you can start to be a bit more aggressive on teams, if you can start to capitalize on the weaker ones and essentially pick rank points. We've heard it within the European region that we work on. Sometimes when you see a team who's not necessarily having the best of deals, jump on them, and they will make sure that they capitalize on those essentially free points, quote unquote, without trying to be derogatory. In any way, shape, or form. So that middle pack, it's open for the taking. If a team can slot itself in and start to garner those points, maybe no one steps up to the.
I want to get your thoughts on it. JDI, actually, unfortunately for them, letting E36 past. I'm kind of not a fan of them either not rotating early towards the south or just not setting strong enough barrier to force the actually, not make that rotation. Because I feel like you need to be getting ahead of things if you're going to move down that way. What do you think from JDI?
I think to cut it simple, why would you defend a city that's not inside the circle? Why would you stay inside Monte Nuevo on the absolute worst time to looting? Then there's no real reason to be sat so solidified in such a major city. If it was center circle, then yeah, crack on with it, have a good. But with the super settings in play, there is no way on earth they are going to be struggling for loot. You can get your guns, your gear. Look, we see teams rotating sub 4 minutes in certain games, in certain situations. You can always reload and re-gear up at a different compound if you have a scout often does that for you. Now, they are 2 players outside of the circle and 2 players not too far from them inside, with everybody else starting to rotate and wrap around them. They could have had a real prime slice of the beef here, maybe even taken top side of Chumacera, maybe even got involved. Fine, if that's their aim, if that's their goal to try and jumpstart into some of these fights and take some free frag points, you could have gotten into such a better position than this. And now, unfortunately, with everyone else starting to home in on this, I mean, even what you're seeing on the screen, Damwon Kia is going to be coming back this slowly. They're broken, and they're not ready to receive what's about to come their way.
Yeah, Damwon Kia could easily crash into Rascal Jester here as well. They've taken up residency down in the building across from them. And we will see M88 actually getting themselves aboard here against Team Curson to start things off. That's down in the southeast, actually, as M88 holding on a little ridge on the entry to the circle. They knew that a team like Curson rotating from Impala was likely to make wide rotation. Curson have been showing wide rotations this entire tournament so far, just 3 games, but still wide rotations. This was brilliant for a little pickup.
It is, and it gets them into a point where they can maybe springboard off the back of that. I'll hold for a second because Pyongyang will fall back. Western instantly stolen. Look at that straight away. JDI's all over it. See a free frag point, and that ultimately is the story of Miramar. There's no other way to put it than that. When you look at Erangel with the amount of compounds and so we do through it, even with the bigger fields, you won't necessarily see somebody overwatching that and being able to just snap it so easily. But with Miramar in a circle like this, there's very little room to be able to get knocked out of a vehicle or knocked out in the without someone else just jumping as a third party. JDI still not making any land from me in the back, just as something to make note of. They're still lingering on the outskirts of Monte Nuevo. They have come closer to the circle, don't get me wrong, and slowly but surely they will encroach on Chumacera, but it's not without its own dangers because we said it. All of a sudden, Kia finds himself smack bang in front of them. They can now hold them dead to rights. Everyone else, for the teams that still just really quickly to where they are, we have Ghibli, Labendi, or at least around close to that area. FTB slowly but surely working their way in. Again, they need a big game here where they're still on 0 points. Rather, STR, CRS, all these other teams, even M88 get to the coastline. There is room to slot in here, and given that Detonation Gaming White are rather split up sporadically, all those strongholds in this is open for the taking. So there is a place to be able to slot in if you're not in just yet. But still, with the circle going prime, water being pulled away and everything else, at the moment, I would say it's Danawa is in a very strong position.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. And if you look at the JDI E36 situation, look what JDI could have had now that E36 has. We just saw the map a little bit before. But obviously as well, when we were talking about the M88 versus Team Curson situation, now that role's reversed. M88 needed more than just one kill, one knock off of the back of that if they were going to stay stationary in that position. But Sasa, the in-game leader, but sometimes that can come back to bite you. He's now freed up to be able to deal with anything. And you're seeing this movement from M88, which is ideal. It's not along the road because they know that Team Curson would be waiting for them on that road.
Stabilize for a second. You might get these final little scrappy engagements, and you're seeing the way down towards the southeast area. Again, you should be able to kind of run by, and there's going to be enough compounds in there, even if it's the edge of the circles, to not really be a big issue. I'm guessing your noise is as concerned as I am having 4 players in an open roof car.
That's right. Especially the Murado across this terrain. There's nothing that handles quite like a Murado across this terrain. Am I right?
I mean, open top as well. A good spray down will just spell disaster. Like, it ain't good. VG, unfortunately, players out towards the blue. They have left it exceptionally late. I just heard someone getting clipped by the car off the back of jumping out of that as well. So that crushing noise definitely means someone just got hit. MK14 comes into play. E36, a team that will certainly be able to make that thing. I'll pick it up. Kia, time to move also, with JDI still being... Even this alone, kind of viewing this on screen, it shows you, like, this is not far from their loot spot, James. This is not far from Monte Nuevo. I was hoping maybe they would go much deeper than this, but I'm assuming they just shots that initially went down in this area, in particular, in Chumacera, and just thought, you know what, we're going to get involved with it.
Seems that way. Seems that way. As one Kia taking a residency in the east side of this, and nice little spray from JDI coming in against Venus Gaming, who have already kind of gone through the war zone in terms of just fighting against the blue. Obviously, they dropped in Oasis, and nothing has really gone Venus Gaming's way in that regard. A very unconventional drop spot is Oasis, all the way up to the north. They've not been able to capitalize on it, unfortunately.
It's not somewhere that we'd reminisce seeing teams either drop or at the very least stay towards the late game. The loot is limited. Yes, super settings are good, but probably not that good enough to support a full 4-person roster. Circle updates. It's not too strenuous on the teams either, and it kind of goes a little to center, so we shouldn't anticipate too much action. It's probably more, ironically, down towards the southeast, because I think we've got about 3 teams when we look towards a Freak of Freaks, M88, STR. They're all lingering and lurking around that area, but Circle's kind of been more to this side. It's everyone in the west who has to fall to it, but they've all kind of prepared and pre-planned for this one. There's no one in the darker hillside, really, for the Circle to be a hard shift. So we shall see, but regardless of what we say, with 14 teams still in play, James, it's starting to get a bit sketchy.
Seems that way. This shift, I think, a little bit unexpected for some of the teams. Like, you kind of expect it to be going up those foothills for this, but a very, very shift means Sister and Detonation Gaming White as well, finding themselves in little spots, as you hear. E36 might end up into Detonation Gaming White, and they're no strangers to one another in terms of the fights coming from the same region. And here come the shots in from Detonation Gaming. E36 should be okay, though. There are some little defilays that you can take out of the road that are playable.
For a moment from the side of a Freak of Freaks. Need to try and keep this team at bay. If they can, it will certainly make rotating in the next one a lot more easy. That kill feed is beginning to look like a death match at the moment. Initial on the side, M8 capitalize on that. They'll push through. There's a compound. You do have the rest of the team, the remnants, still lingering down toward, but you can see the third party. CRS, James, and off the back of that, Raster, I believe, are behind this. So there is potential for a four-way battle down towards the south.
Yeah, PSTR being the first victims of all of this fight down, and Simba really ringing it. And I mean, Simba, just a great addition to the team in general. We've seen him in previous teams and previous iterations. Just a great, great little addition. And taking this fight against PSTR. The way they're split up is a little bit suspect. I don't know if they're going to be able to deal with that. As you say, Rascal Jester could cause quite a bit of problems. MP5 still looking across the ridgeline over. They know that JDI and Damwon Kia are over there. JDI's got a lot of work to do to cross this road. I don't even know if their cars are in a decent situation. Like, that car at the front is potentially going to be under fire from MP5. And PSTR goes.
JDI, this will be an awful run. She can get a ton of smokes and just cover it and completely to the opposing side. The better play, I was about to say the better play would be to smoke causing buildings and then maybe run it around and block their vision, but you can see from the map, it's like, how do you even do that with MP5 at church? I suppose that for them, they do have to roll for. You can see now they're fixated onto that fight to see how they can get involved in terms of 30. I mean, even for MP5, I suppose the smart would basically just drive directly to the east and take that plateau. You'd then be blocking out not only JDI, but also Damwon Kia on the next rotate.
I mean, about the JDI situation is they've been a focal point of our conversations throughout this game. And actually, the hard shifts have been pretty favorable to them, despite them not rotating down towards the west and then coming up from the south, similar to what we've seen E36 do as they rotated through. But still, when you get pinned out like this, as the hard shifts were favorable to them, but they were still pinned out by big names. And you've got to anticipate these kind of compounds being taken early in these games, when then JDI is having basically a mare of it, trying to get in. Like, what do you do here? Try and go to the east side and maybe smoke up the latest parts of the road and then go up against Ghibli? I think that might be the best shot, because I don't think you're getting in here.
No, there's nothing really too much you can do about it, and it's just a matter of seeing whatever happens, I suppose. MP5 have not quite fully done what I suggested they may do and run and commit all the way to the east, but they have put 2-2, so 2 will stay towards the church, and that's what Idonix is trying to keep track of. The rest of them will to full bombardment. Here we go. If they get one knock, it'll be absolutely worth it. Frags there. Hansia instantly shuts it down. Rascal Jester is eliminated. While it's still going on screen, so previous round winners unfortunately not faring just as good within Miramar. Still one player on the opposing side to get one knock onto Kale. I mean, it's okay. It's probably the best of a bad situation. That nade's getting ever so closer. I think Damwon know exactly what the play is here and what's happened. With MP5 again, still not really moving. And still keeping track of this one. I mean, Hin is just no issues for Damwon whatsoever. They do have to move, though, rather soon, and that's my only concern. Otherwise, they end up in the exact same position that JDI is in, and they can't get up the hillside. They're pinned in by MP5.
Yeah, they have to know that MP5 is over this spot, and I would anticipate them trying to move east and then south from the spot. Fighting Bees goes. Oh dear,
that's a shot and a half. I mean, I know it was low health, but it always just surprises me and always impresses me whenever you see someone get bodied at distance by an AR.
Yeah,
it's nice. It's nice. 1 HP. In a mere dream, probably not too much he can do with the blow on his back. He'll have to keep on running. Let's take a quick look at how much land do. All right, so it's only really Ghibli now that's in the way of the Freak of Freaks when they go forward. I say it's only Ghibli. It's still a very strong team, but there is a sign of room to whether or not they're going to have line of sight when they come off the small hillside. They could go low actually and wrap on this one. Keep track of Detonation Gaming White for Ghibli. They'll stay inside that compound. It's a safety hook, right? They'll sit there for now. They're going to be happy. Sister, excuse me, I said it Rascal Jester previously, didn't I, of the winners?
Rascal Jester went out to Africa Freaks on the east.
Yeah. I mean, so two compound declares is all that's left within this one.
Yeah, the hard shifts destroyed Rascal Jester's situation. They had to try and make a huge rotate. It couldn't happen. Somehow JDI is still alive and just chilling over there. The problem with going east and then south for Damwon Kia is that is in position, line of sight of Ghibli's compound, which does cause problems. Ghibli controls massive sways of this circle right now, along with Sun Sister. It's going to be difficult for some of the teams to get in. I wouldn't mind Africa Freaks, this is ridiculous, taking to the fields to their west and taking the ridgeline where Hikari is now moving, because that could afford them a position to eventually get into later stages.
Trying to just cross-reference with the map and see how it plays out. The problem is it's just that mid area. I mean, there is, given the couple of dips that's there, if someone really, that's particular small shack, if someone really, really wants to go out, you could send it middle. And you could pray for circle lock if it comes your way. Then absolutely laughing, don't get me wrong, getting into it isn't the easiest time in the world. Speaking of the world, we'll pause for a second because Detonation Gaming White might just be feeling the full force of a freak of freaks. Malofo's been noted his position all the way at the back. Hikari will hold down for now. The rest of the team might continue the rotate up towards the hill and take the fight to them. SST within the distance here, so a three-way battle will be fun.
Yeah, if Sunsister gets spicy, they can easily third-party this. Just with the duo, though, they have to back off if one of them does get knocked off. But they do have an extremely strong little hill to play with in that regard. Africa Freaks has traversed that field that I was mentioning before, which they could have gone to. They can't really go north towards Ghibli's position. I mean, that strong a spot to try and breach, as now they're going to be taking this fight up against DG, and Detonation Gaming White gets the better of hands here as Roa. Firing against EJ, though. EJ providing some fire from the back lines.
Just being lit up by Machao. Malofo answers back, Hikari down. Now there's a window of opportunity. EJ so far has just been absolutely beast mode through this competition. And only 4 games in. It's kind of scary to be able to say that already. With a nade coming up, we'll see if we get any of the knocks here. Res potential probably very, very limited, especially with that next nade going down. Hikari's being tagged up by a different player. Never mind, he can't do anything. Rex sees him at distance and puts him in the grave.
I mean, this is a great fight for Detonation Gaming White. All things considered, they may end up getting killed off by Danawa down the line here, but them getting themselves maybe like 4 kills on the board or something like that. DGW is generally a team that will do decent placement, but on kills here and there, 2 kills here and there. They had a win in PGIS, which was a 1-kill game. So for them to get, 4 or 5 on the board, that's nice here for Detonation Gaming.
Most certainly is. Might be nice for MP5 as well. Should they be able to catch a boatload of players once they come over this hill? There's 2 of them directly in front of them. Provided Detonation Gaming White doesn't wrap and get involved as a third party from up high, should be fine. Seal goes low. Bang should be able to get this. Never mind. Backed off at the exact wrong time that he didn't want to. If that nade is good, it's over. It's better than good. It's absolutely beautiful.
That was great. This is a very interesting rotate by MP5, who Church holding west of Chuma Sarah and have wrapped all the way down, knowing that Sunsister are in the compound north of them. And now really putting the tension where it needs to be as Lambu gets Machao moving down into this position. They knew that they can't traverse toward Kia, so they've moved south to join this fight as well. It's going to be a bloodbath down here.
It is. It's rather interesting as well that Machao, I only saw 2 frags on the board for him, but he's been involved in the kill feed so much. He's been doing so much work for his team, but it's just not converted into points. It's a little bit unfortunate. Now his teammate in a 1 versus the entire server. If he can hold up to it, fair play. Nope, denied. Trade-offs there. Spear comes in, puts him in the ground. Bang, meanwhile, has fallen, but the rest of MP trying to get the resuscitate. Ghibli's the real problem now, because they've got 1 play and something disconnected from the rest of the team. He does have a job, and that's to kind of watch the cross from Ghibli. So it is a good position to disconnect, but I mean, look at this. It's very rare we get into a top 4 situation, and we've almost got all 4 teams with 4 playing. That's a lot of players. Yes, we've got ground to cover. Yes, we have a good circle, but still, a lot of players left, and some big potential parties coming into effect.
I mean, 3 of the 4 teams with 4 men, and Damwon Kia with a great little flex out from their position. So the 3-man, I would argue that aside from Sunsister, they have a great little spot to from. They've got to be very, very careful in case Songjang actually does get Menba is absolutely capable of doing. MP5, though, I've got to give them absolute huge credit, huge kudos to this rotation that they've made. They've got 4 back up. They had little knock, that mishap go down onto the south. And playing from this angle, especially since Sunsister had this compound, could work out. This, although, doesn't afford them too many favors.
The only one thing that I suppose for Sunsister, the downside of this, it's hard in these compounds to play an elevated line of sight when they have big bay windows. We've all been knocked in those windows. We all know the lay of the land here. It's rather easy because there's no trees, there's no foliage or anything to block vision. It's very hard to get dinked. So keeping a bird's eye view is not the easy world. That's then multiplied by the fact that you have MP5 trying to breach this compound. So for now, it's the angle would be vision towards MP5, try and defend that. But again, still, if you go upstairs, you take the eye off the ball, you get shot in the back of the head. Something you need to be aware of, and something that Sunsister now are going to have to kind of split their resources by keeping control of keeping a bird's eye view on what's going on with Kia, but more so keeping back and keeping out MP5. And this is just phenomenal work. Hop, skip, and a jump, and he's in the building. Spider-Man been allowed to do this.
Do something, man, Spider. Fanghua has been a brilliant little player here throughout this day. Manages to find himself the spot. Yeah, this is what I was going to say. I don't think Sunsister is going to be as warm as the other teams coming into this final circle either.
I love the fact that he put the smoke down, James. It was distracting, and more importantly, it covered. The audible cues there to cover his footsteps and mask what he was actually doing is phenomenal. To be able to get in there, it's bang on, flash bang, absolutely. No idea what's going on after a beautiful little play up into the buildings to get himself into the position. I mean, he's thrown the Sunsister completely off the ball, and all of a sudden, ultimately to the wolves and to the wind.
Takes it back. Sunsister were warm. They greet that breach in turn. Fanghua's play was great to start things off, but nobody else at MP5 was able to do anything off of the back of it. And now, Ghibli and Damwon Kia, it's 3v3v3. And I've got to favor the people out in the fields, man.
You'd assume so. With the circle, it's always going to pull away from the edges. And being able to have that amount of land, you're going to be laughing. It just depends. Thing that I made note of while that was going down, Ghibli started to push a little bit closer to Damwon Kia. Just apply the pressure a tiny more, and rightfully so. They're at the top of the board. When you're down in third, if you Ghibli, if you can remove these players, the less points you give them, the more chance you have of winning this competition. So, tactically, taking out Kia, you want to get as many points as you can, right? You know, there's nothing wrong with that. But tactically, taking out Kia for Ghibli is a bigger priority after Sunsister. You might say, okay, Sunsister's the points, but if you can remove the number one spot in this position and after Sunsister, it makes perfect sense. The only thing for Ghibli is they are closer to Sunsister. They will be the first point of contact. Wicked's there to the movement towards Kia. But if they start to lay into Kia from that side, then Sunsister hits him at the back. Ada goes down, starts to collapse.
I'm going to be honest. This is David versus Goliath and then another Goliath. This is two of these teams I expect thoroughly to be in the top three. Oh, higher game. Ada blasts it with a beautiful grenade. Getting Crazy Sam and Kendes. That is easy pickings. And now off the back of that, I mean, Sunsister has got 7 kills. They're very happy with the points that they've earned. They want more. But Ada finishes Kendes, jumps around on Remba, able to pick that up as well. Ada finishing off Crazy Sam. Ada has been a great addition already to the Ghibli lineup. He makes it work.
It couldn't have been a better name. And instantly then onto Under as well. With another player going down, this makes it much harder for Kia. Ada has the plate in a big prolific proportion. Polly in the smoke should get seen by Spear, I would assume, first. Line perfectly, dead to rights, job done. Under. The resuscitation's coming through for Ghibli. There was a potential to maybe hit them fast where they got a player down. But for Kia, they're back on the feet. They will commit all the utility. All is go down. They deny the cross, which it's the better way of playing this one. Stick the smokes up, put the mollies in there. You've got a wall of flames there to hold them back. The player's feet, and more importantly, is at full health. Final fight will endure 2 versus 3.
That molly almost worked out. The crazy thing about that fight that went down is that Damwon Kia moved on it. They relocated to Ghibli's prior position that they knew was better than theirs that was downhill.
He shot it.
He just shot it out the air?
He shot it.
Damn. We're in for a tournament, Rich. Oh, that was great.
We are. You just saw the splash in midair. Seen two the last few weeks now, so it's always good to see. Up against the blue, trying to fight tooth and nail here. The smoke wall's on the left-hand side, so he only needs to focus on Wicked, but Wicked doesn't really need to show his hand. He can grab to his teammates if he wants to. At the moment, he's been a nuisance, been an annoyance, trying to draw them out into this false sense of security. Once they're out in the open, the other two can then capitalize and pounce on it. But if Ada's playing out of his mind and out of his skull, then maybe he can do something, but the problem throws the pan at him. But the problem is the health, James. The health is down and it's not going up.
No, indeed. They can't find any windows to heal. This was brilliant by Damwon Kia. This is a championship level play. Even if this was 3v3, Damwon Kia's move as Ghibli engaged Sun Sister is a kind of championship quality play that you need to see. And Wicked is causing problems for Ghibli here just by being here. Not even shooting, but he can still be lethal with that gun.
Yeah, he's a bit of a nuisance. Spear will strike first. Yonghan instantly on the response. Ada needs to pounce. If he does, it'd be good. It's not. It's denied. Wicked holds the angle, shuts it down, and ultimately...
He's gone.
Yes, he's not even there. He disappeared. He's back. Okay, there we go. But yeah, good work all around. Yeah. Damwon Kia will hold that top spot. And what a hold from Wicked at the end. To basically just strangulate Ada into the corner. It denied him doing anything for the team. There was some signs of greatness from all teams there, to be honest with you. The response coming out of, at the end, it was Sun Sister to MP5, answered them well. Ada then bounces back onto that. It's just a domino continuously, but still, ultimately, what a cracking endgame that was to watch unfold.
No, definitely so. For Damwon Kia, PGIS, I think it's fair to say it hurt their reputation, and they have come into this tournament wanting to rebuild a little bit of that. And then when you get of the past 3 games, first, second, first, oh, you're back to Damwon Kia levels of ability, all the way back to OG Entus and OG Entus Force. These guys are able to blast, and you're able to see these moves, as we're mentioning, in this final circle that show that they are a championship caliber team. And yeah, we're seeing it right here, Rich.
Look, it's not only the fan base at home and everyone else around them that held them to 100. It was us on an international level. On an international scale, we knew what these guys were capable of. They very much underperformed at PGIS. I'm hoping now with a small change up, maybe back on home turf as well, will certainly make them feel a little bit more comfortable with the respective region, so to speak. But yeah, hopefully this is the signs of things to come, and hopefully this is the rebuild taking full effect.
Maybe. But for now, though, we have our Koreans standing strong at the end of day 1. That's it for us. We're going to go to a short break, and when we return, we'll wrap up the day.
We almost got it right. We almost called Ghibli. A few of us did, but so close. No cigar, however, at the very end of it. And you're joining the very end of all of this, at the very end of the day. My name